Good evening, guys. Bill McMillan here with you, IndyWX.com, Thursday evening, and I wanted to take a moment to discuss some of our long-range faults as we move into the new year, the month of January, and a combination of ingredients continue to look like they're going to come together to lead to a rather dramatic shift from this kind of temporary relaxation of the cold pattern that we've been in for the better part of really the past few months, really since back to the second half of October. And by some indications out there at least would suggest the potential of a rather significant period of wintry conditions as we move into particularly the second week of January really on. So a lot on the table, and now we just have to see if it's going to come to fruition. I will tell you, we're looking out at, to start this video at the temperature anomalies for the month of December through the 19th. And a large portion of the central and eastern, portion of the United States was running colder than normal, and we're seeing these warmer anomalies show up now due to this flip, the recent flip in the pattern over the past week or so to a relatively milder regime. However, there are indications that changes loom down the road, and we'll start off by taking a look at the latest MJO forecast here. And when it comes to the MJO, it's not only the phase that the MJO is in, but also the amplitude of the MJO, or the Madden-Julian Oscillation, in terms of the impacts that it could have on our sensible weather here across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and central Indiana in particular. So the GFS ensemble continues to take this into 5 before kind of just meandering around here over the next couple of weeks, kind of losing some of that amplitude. However, if we look at the Australian Bureau of Meteorology here, the MJO is forecast. Now, granted, this was the last updated on the 16th of December, so waiting a new update. But you see the amplitude here over the next few weeks going into phases, not only 5, but also 6 and 7, which are cold phases in the month of January. And just to give you some perspective here, this would be what phase 5 of the MJO would result from a temperature perspective during an El Nino year. So you see the cooler anomalies developing across the central portion of the country, beginning to bleed into the Midwest. However, that becomes even more noticeable with phase 6. That cold becomes more widespread across the lower 48, and phase 7 as well. So again, something to continue to monitor as we go through the next couple of weeks. Now, also you hear us talk about various teleconnections that are out there. The Pacific North American pattern is something that I'm really big on this time of the year for the impacts that it can have here. And when we start seeing this go positive, that's a cold signal for our portion of the country. And in January, you see that widespread cold from the south central portion of the country up into the Ohio Valley, including the southeast. The AO, or the Arctic Oscillation, and the NAO for that matter, are two teleconnections that really have more of an impact later in the winter, really from the middle part of January on. And when we look at the AO, it's forecast over the next couple of weeks to remain rather neutral. Into early January, that would be kind of a musha signal here across our portion of the country, a little warmer across the southeast, and the cold beginning to build across the north central. The NAO forecasted it slightly negative as we go into early January, and with that, it's a widespread cold pattern during the month of January across the country. Now, as we look ahead, this was something that we tweeted out this morning. The JMA Weeklies updated, and while we can't show you the European data, I will say overall in relative agreement with the latest JMA Weeklies that came out this morning. Obviously, no surprise here, week 1 with that eastern ridge and the colder pattern across the western portion of the country. As we go into week 2, though, this is where we start to see some changes. More active southern stream here, some resistance perhaps across the southeast from this ridge that may force the storm track into the Ohio Valley. I would anticipate this to be a pattern that would yield above normal precipitation during week 2, so to close December and open up the first portion of January. But we also begin to see this ridge beginning to pull back to the northwest, and then by the time we get out there to that weeks 3 and 4 time frame, this is a fantastic pattern, if you like it, cold and stormy across the eastern portion of the country, blocking developing across the top here, a very active southern stream, and then a colder pattern across the eastern portion of the country. I can tell you our forecast is one that will feature a colder and snowier than average January, and our clients obviously have that forecast. Nothing's really changed there. It's really just pinpointing the timing in particular with the change back to a sustained wintry regime that's kind of always been that challenge in this pattern. Continue to think that we're in transition the last couple of days of December, the first few days of January, before heading into it with more authority as we move into the second week of January. Guys, that'll do it with the latest updates on our long-range thinking. Make it a great Thursday evening, an early Merry Christmas to y'all, and we look forward to talking with you soon on IndyWX.com.